And there's a test shot of the stormtrooper that's just come up on the screen, and that is the original one that was shot at Elstree, and the guy in there is a guy called Dennis Plenty. And Dennis Plenty, there's a lot of them that say they're the original stormtrooper, but he is the original stormtrooper because they moulded him, they cast him in plaster, and it was that plaster model of Dennis Plenty that I sculpted the stormtrooper armour on. They used him in the test shots that were taken at Elstree at the time, and you see he's got a lump of wood for the gun. They didn't have a gun at that point, obviously. But yeah, there were things that changed. There was a panel on the back of the helmet, a little panel that they'd put on, that was taken off. Either Lucas or John Barry decided they didn't like it.
The website?
Well, mainly it's signed photographs, all 3 books. You can get plaques, because a lot of people have plaques with their Vader helmets or Stormtrooper, the Death Star droid if they have it. ZZ3, Regal Robot in America, they did a run of CZ3s, and I signed 15 plaques for that. They sold out in minutes. So a few years later, they've not done it yet. They were talking about doing a version of the Death Star droid. So I've signed 100 plaques, all 100 they wanted a plaque with. EFX did a run of Vader helmets, and I signed something like 400 odd plaques for them. Did Vader in the same way that the Stormtrooper was done. They moulded Dave Prowse, who played the part of Vader. Well, he was in the suit anyway, and they cast him in plaster, so they took a life mould off him again. And I had a plaster version of Dave Prowse that I sculpted the mask, the helmet, the chest armour, the shoulder bells and the shins on. So we knew that they would fit Dave Prowse after. He was 6'6" and extremely well built. He was big all over. I mean, even his head was big. So if you wear a Darth Vader helmet and it's linked back to the original, you'll see how big it is. But it's not. I mean, his head was in line with the rest of his body as such. You wouldn't look at him and think, oh, he's got a big head, because his whole body was big. You know, he was all in proportion. Because he was offered 2 parts. He was offered to do Chewbacca or Vader, and he chose Vader. And without a doubt, it was the right part to take. Such an iconic character. And yes, very well recognised all around the world. Even in China, we went to a couple of conventions in China, one in Beijing and then one in Shanghai. And Vader is just, even in China, it's recognised. They'd only had, oh, just looking at there, that's the royal coat of arms that I did for the Crown Court. That's the clay, which is what I sculpt. And then they mould that, cast it in fiberglass, and it was all done in heraldic colours, which there's a photograph in my one of the books of that job, with all the heraldic colours on, which is, it went to the Crown Court like that. But they liked it that much, they had it as a coat of arms for several courts around the country. But that was the 3 years I had outside of the industry doing all that type of work. That one there is for a Bond movie, and I can't think of which one it was. It was one of the early Bond films. And the earliest one, I did 9 Bond films in all, and the earliest one was The Spy Who Loved Me. And for that one, I did some Egyptian work in Q's workshop, which was in Abu Simbel. And I also did, on that film, I did the tiger shark that Jaws wrestles with in the Shark Tank. I don't know if you've seen the film.
Yes.
But
yes.
Bond picks him up by his teeth with a great big magnet and drops him in the Shark Tank. And then you see him, he's wrestling with this shark. And he bites the shark and manages to get away anyway. You also see the same shark swim up to an an actress that went into the lift there, and a floor opened, and she got taken down into the shark tank, and you don't see her being eaten, but that's what happened. That one is Spy Who Loved Me, and it was for the main bad character. It was for his underwater ship. And we got a picture with Roger Moore, Caroline Monroe, and another actress, and you can see that in the background in the ship. I mean, what you actually see on the website is a tiny fraction of the work I've done. It only covers 35 films, and the work that I show is only a little bit of the work that I've done on the films. So yeah, it's just shows enough work to show the type of work that you do in the film industry. But I covered 35 films, and I've worked on double that, about 70 films. I mean, the one you're looking at there is the Space Jockey, which was Alien, the first film. And I worked a lot with Giger on that. That Space Jockey is his concept. He didn't sculpt it, although some people think he did, because he posed next to it when it was being sculpted. But a guy called Peter Voisey and myself, we sculpted it. It took 4 weeks, a month and that stands 26 foot high. There's also bone sections at the back that go right around the stage, and I did one section on a double radius board that they could mould, and then mould that and cast them in plaster, and one side marries into the other side, so they can actually stack them going right up the set and around the set. So that was just another job I did. Very organic, yeah, but he was very talented with the airbrush. All his work was very three-dimensional, so that side of it, to do the detail on it was easier. It was working out how to achieve it. So that's the hardest bit. I mean, visually you can carve that, no problem. It's actually working out the technical side of it.
So it's quite unsettling to look at as well. So when you've got it all around you, it must be strange being snapped with all the ephemera all around you.
Yeah. I mean, he was quite a character. He wore black the whole time that I saw him on the film. Every day he was always dressed in black, and he was supposed to be a high-ranking wizard. So yeah, he was a character. And that the entrances to the spaceship. Peter and I were working on H stage, and we were about to start that. Giger wandered in, and he came in with some top shelf magazines, very detailed, of a lady's parts, and he left the stage afterwards, and we just looked at each other and we laughed and said, there's no way we can do what he's asking us to do. So what you actually see on the spacecraft is a very stylized version. I'll leave the rest to your imagination.
It's wow. Yeah, I can see you there.
Oh, that's the bone section that I was talking about, that's on a double radius, and that goes right up the set. That I was only halfway through it there. I had a lot of finishing to do, but that's in clay. Because it wasn't that deep, did it in solid clay. And as I said, one side marries into the other side, so you can stack them, and it looks as though it's all one. Giger went on a promotional tour out in America with it, and they're not quite sure what happened, but it burnt down. It caught light and burnt down. They're not sure if it was a religious person didn't like it and set light to it, or someone left a cigarette on there, because it was polystyrene as well. As you can see, that section there, I'm carving that in polystyrene. So it could have caught light, and also the paint that went on it. There was a lot of inflammable paint and lacquers and that, so it probably would have caught light quite easily. I mean, that was the story at the time, that or the fact that someone just left a cigarette near it.
That's
anyway, it went up in flames. I mean, they're the entrances I was talking about. And I did a lot, all the bones around that set. The plasterers did the main easy sections, and then any part of the bones that needed were more sculptural, I did them. And then it was all painted as one then after that. But
was it difficult with the polystyrene element?